Hello all my awesome artists, Mr. Bond here, and today we'll be creating a background for our pop art inspired portrait. First thing you're going to do is open up the Sketchbook app, and you should have your project already opened up. And as you can see here, this is a finished product, and today I'm going to show you how to add a background similar to this one. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to break up the background into the different sections where you can create patterns. So I'm going to add a new layer, and I want the layer to be behind my portrait. So if you hold down on the layer, you can move it. See, that would be in front, so then anything I drew would be over it. If I grab it and drag it down, everything will be behind it, okay? So, just gonna undo that line, okay. Now we're gonna be introduced to a new tool today. We're gonna use a line tool, okay? And the line tool is up at the top where there's a circle and a square. You're gonna tap that, and the first one is a line, then you have options for a circle shape or a square shape. We're gonna use the line. We're gonna use our fountain pen, and we're gonna use a 10-point size. So around 10 is a good size for this. Okay. Now, I'm gonna pinch in my picture a little bit smaller because I want to be able to see all the edges, because I want to make sure my lines go all the way to the edge of the paper. Okay, so I'm going to start now in my clear layer, and for now I'm going to have the layer be on top of my portrait, and I'm going to draw some lines and break up the space into about 5 or 6 different sections. So I'm going to do one kind of about down the middle here. Let's see, I'll go from there. Okay, now I have 4 different sections. That's pretty cool. You could do that. I'm gonna add another one down like that, and one over here. All right, I wanna make sure that all my lines, my black lines, connect. So I'm creating these spaces for color. And now, if I drag my portrait to the front of it, you can see what it's gonna look like. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. Now I'm gonna hide my portrait. Oops. Make sure I hide that other one. Now I'm gonna start coloring in this area. Now there's different ways you can do this. You can draw your patterns freehand by coloring in the section. Oops, close, but make sure you're working in the right layer. So this one, okay. And then I could go in and use the line tool again, use the shape tool. All right, if I want to do some little dots. I could draw some polka dots. Now I could leave these as they are, or I could go in and fill them in with my paint bucket. Something like that. And I can see what it looks like. All right, so that's one way. You can do a solid color fill. Then you can go back to the fountain pen tool and draw little designs in. For this, I'm gonna do some little swirly, curly Q kind of designs and fill up my space with just some of these little interesting designs, just to kind of add a little pattern to it. Just any kind of repeated shape or line creates a pattern, right? Those are kind of cool. Now, the last way, and that you could add a pattern, is by going into Google. To open up your web browser, go into Google and search for a pattern. So maybe I want to do some kind of star pattern. I'm going to type in what I'd like to see. I want to see a star pattern, and I'm going to search it. All right, I'm going to go to images and find a cool image. So these are good. Look at that, I like these with different sizes. That one's super cool. And maybe I'll do this one here that I like the different. I'm going to copy the picture and I'm going to add it to my photos. Then I'm going to go back into Sketchbook. I'm going to create a new layer, making sure that layer is underneath my background layer. And in that layer, I'm going to paste my image in. Okay, and I can drag it and make it bigger. if I want. So maybe I'll put it down there. Okay, and I'm gonna click done. Now I can see it. I'm going to take my pen, go up a little bit to about 5 point. Oops, sorry. Zoom in. Oh, and not on, I don't want to be on that layer. I want to be back in my background layer. Make sure I'm working in there. And I'm going to draw. Use this, like I did my portrait, to trace the pattern. Okay, so I'm going to keep using the zoom function to zoom in and out and turn my page around so it's easier for me to trace the different stars in. I'm making sure that I'm connecting all my lines to create shapes that I will be able to color in later on. From time to time, you may want to hide the pattern layer to check your progress on your tracing. Okay, make sure you get the entire pattern traced in. Now that I'm almost done with all of my stars, I'm going to zoom back out. I don't need to worry about that little area there that's going to be eventually covered by my portrait anyway. Okay, so now I just want to double check, make sure all my lines are closed off and that I have shapes and that nothing will spill over when I use my bucket tool to fill in the stars. So now I'm going to click on the paint bucket tool and select the color that I would like to use to color my stars. I'll color all my stars in first and then the background. So you can continue on like that and doing different ones. You can do stripes using the line tool, right? If you make it really thick. I can do some stripes. Now, if you go over the line like that, I'm going to show you what we can do later with that. But just be careful. You don't want to go all the way. Now, if I wanted to, what I could do then is maybe make this a little smaller. Maybe about a 15. Change it back to black. And then I can go back over this line here and make, make my black line thicker. And I could always fill in those spaces too. So you get the idea. So you're gonna be creative and kind of create a cool background, right? Okay, something like that. So make sure to use your layers and be creative when creating your pop art inspired background. Remember, your background should be colorful and have some bold black outlines. Can't wait to see what you come up with.